He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Sometimes the loudest, most obnoxious, most ostentatious people you'll ever meet are leaders. And they shouldn't be. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stand by. Oh, and make sure that you share this because you probably know somebody who desperately needs to hear this, and they might be that same person that brushes your teeth every day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I'm sure you've worked with the kind of leaders that I've worked with in the past, the kind of people who are always rah, rah, rah. They've got all the hype and all the hope and all the help you could possibly ever muster as long as you do it yourself. They can tell you what you need to do better, but they don't live it. They don't do what they tell you you need to do. They've read all the books. They've done all the things that are necessary to make it look like they're great leaders. Or maybe they're the type they've actually never led anything. They've never led anyone. Nobody pays any attention to what they're saying, but they dress the part, they speak the part, they have everyone believing they are phenomenal influencers. But if you get real deep into the who that they are, they couldn't care less about you. They want the glory of having lots of people say, well, I love the way they do things. But the things that they do really are about them, like all about them. Even what they do for other people is ultimately about them. Now, there are some interchangeable words that we confuse often as leaders and as leadership development people. We mix up these words that, well, they're hard to distinguish, but they're extremely important. Words like confidence and ego and self-esteem, words like positivity or mood and attitude. And we think these words are, well, it's just semantics. These are interchangeable, but the more I study the human mind, the more I realize they're not. They're not. They're not the same. They're not interchangeable. You might see someone who has this bold confidence to just speak their mind at any moment, to anybody, anywhere. They're not ashamed. They're not embarrassed. I remember being in high school when I injured my back, and I was off the football team for a season. And during that time, I had a chance to pick up a couple of different classes that were at the same time as athletics that I couldn't participate in before. One of those was drama. One of those was speech. I was already in choir. I'd been in choir for 5 or 6 years at that point, but there was this common denominator between my choir teacher and my drama teacher. Of course, they were friends. They taught in the same tiny little high school. But one thing that they said on a regular basis was, if you make a mistake, don't point at it. Odds are you're the only one that knows you made it. So if you missed a line in your script, if you sang the wrong note, if you turned left when you were supposed to turn right in your choreography, if you missed one little detail, the chances are that you and your instructor are the only ones who noticed it, so just carry on. It's kind of like the cat who jumps off the couch and sprints out the back door and doesn't realize the glass door is closed, and bam, they run into it. They wander around for a couple of minutes and then wander off somewhere else. And usually the cat has the attitude like, I meant to do that. Well, there are a lot of leaders who lead that way. The challenge is they lead that way with this fake confidence, this ability to let the world believe I meant to do that, when deep inside they know I screwed up again. And something deep inside of them, that inner dialogue, that tape that keeps playing at the back of their head, is saying, you're a loser. You're a failure. In fact, you better run that flag of confidence even higher up the flagpole. Tell everybody how bold and fearless you are, that you're perfectly willing to make a mistake in front of anybody, because you never make any mistakes. But if you did, it would be okay. Because the higher you run that flag up the flagpole, the more they're going to believe it. Even so, and positive, and they believe the very best, and they believe the very best in you, that you can do anything you set your mind to, and yet you watch part, and you're wondering, how is it that this one track of their life is so phenomenal? You ever heard the old phrase, how you do anything is how you do everything? I can't tell you the level of frustration I have. We downsized about a year ago from close to 3,000 square feet, 22-ish, to about 1,250, which at this season in our life is about right. That's about what we need. The problem is we still have 5,000 square feet of stuff. So we have stuff in storage. We have stuff in boxes. We have one room in our house that's just full of boxes. It's stuff I don't want to get rid of. It's my books. It's my office stuff. It's stuff. It's just stuff. And this phrase keeps playing over and over in my head. How you do anything is how you do everything. And when I walk into that room or I walk into my office and I see stuff that's not yet dealt with, it's not yet organized, it's neither been thrown away nor put away, I have this sense of incongruity in myself, that how you do anything is how you do everything, and therefore I'm unfinished. I have work that's unfinished. It's incomplete. It should be done, and it's not yet done. There's something missing. There's a part of it that hasn't finished. And in me, that's very frustrating. And sometimes I just push it out of my mind and I carry on with the important things. I look at that as a task that needs to be done, and one day it will be done. It's kind of like when you come home 3 days in a row and you realize the grass really needs to get mowed. And I'm the only lawnmower. So at some point, I'm going to have to come home and not relax at the end of a long day. I'm going to have to come home and add another 3 hours to my long day. And if, heaven forbid, I mow the lawn and it gets dark before I get a chance to do the trimming, even more frustration sets in, because now I know, well, if it's going to get trimmed, I'm the trimmer. I'm the mower, I'm the trimmer. I'm the car washer, I'm the oil changer, I'm the tire checker. I'm the book organizer, I'm the box emptier. It's all on me. If it's going to happen, I have to do it. But see, there's this threshold of tolerance, of priorities, of do I really want to do it? How bad do I want it done? If it's going to get done, I have to do it, but how bad do I want it done? And I've been studying a great book called You Can Read Anyone. You Can Read Anyone. Never Be Fooled, Lied to, or Taken Advantage of Again by Dr. David Lieberman. And in today's reading, I came across this fascinating little piece. And I'm going to read several little snippets out of this. I'm going to start on page 136 because these were both challenging for me and eye-opening for the people that I've both served under as leaders and the people that I've led. Because this whole personality aspect of leadership, it's a big deal. It really is. And I've been studying John Maxwell for 30 plus years, but this is new levels of, wow, hadn't really thought of that. Page 136, The Mood Override is the name of this section. Mood is the shadow of self-esteem, temporarily lifting or deflating us, coloring how we see our world and ourselves. The lower a person's self-esteem, the more the mood becomes a factor in his thinking and feelings. As stated, when a person has very low self-esteem, he is absorbed in himself, Therefore, his thoughts and actions are more likely to depend on his mood. Since low self-esteem creates a looming ego, situations affecting others are not as important as they might be for someone who is more emotionally stable. Let me read that last sentence again, because this is both an enormous aha moment and an anchor for leadership and leadership communication that I really want to challenge you to apply in your life. This is a big, big deal. Since low self-esteem creates a looming ego, so self-esteem and ego, those are not the same thing. Situations affecting others are not as important. They might be for someone who is more emotionally stable. So there's three major things to think about in that one sentence. Self-esteem and ego are not the same. And the focus that you give to others will be dependent on the relationship you have between your ego, your self-esteem, and emotional stability. Think that through for a minute. Meaning, if you consider yourself a great leader, but you're less concerned about how well you value others or how much value you add to their life, then you might be in that tipping point between, is this self-esteem or is this ego, and how emotionally stable am I? Let me go on. This is page 137. He says, when one's self-esteem is higher, he is more driven to do what's right, regardless of whether or not he feels like it. But as self-esteem lowers, his mood begins to dominate the thought process, with his subsequent behavior hinging upon the significance of the situation. When ego is engaged, we cannot easily see or feel beyond our own pain. This is similar to physical pain, whereby someone with a toothache, for instance, finds it difficult to focus on the needs of others. Feeling compassion for the hungry, the homeless, or the suffering becomes next to impossible with a throbbing tooth. Think for a moment about the number of times that you've asked for help from a leader, and they're so self-focused on their own pain, their own problems, their own right now. The situation around them is personally dire, painful, untenable. And so their solution to that, their way of coping with that, is to ignore your problem. Enough of that crap. More about me. I don't have time to deal with your problem. You deal with your problem. I have my own problems to deal with. I've been watching the mayor of Kingston. The language is atrocious, but the levels of psychology written into the script of this show are absolutely fascinating. And watching the strategic chess play, if you will, of all the players in this and how they dynamically interact with each other and what corruption looks like, it's mind-numbing, but it's powerful. And when I read something like this where he says, the ego and the self-esteem, those are not the same, but they have this relational tendency one toward the other. And pain that someone's experiencing limits their ability to serve others. If you are a leader dealing with painful circumstances and situations in your own life, the loss of a loved one, a career on the rocks, that diminishing light in the corner that is your career dissipation light, it's about to expire, that light's about to go out, and you realize everything in your life is about to change. All of those things affect your mood. And depending on your self-esteem versus ego balance, the level of effect that will have on your mood is dramatic. And when ego is high and self-esteem is low, that mood will impact your ability or complete inability to help somebody else. And at that point, all the bravado and all the confidence in the world isn't going to change anything, because confidence and competence are not the same thing any more than ego and esteem. We'll jump over to page 140. This is under the pitfalls, self-esteem versus ego. Don't fall into the trap of believing that a person who has a big ego likes himself. That could take you a week to sort out all by itself. Don't fall into the trap of believing the person who has a big We must remember the ego and the self-esteem are generally inversely related. If you were looking at a balance scale or a seesaw or a teeter-totter, the higher the ego, the lower the self-esteem. And because they're attached on a fulcrum, the higher, the lower the self-esteem, the lower the ego. They push each other and pull each other. He goes on to say, no matter how much a person appears to be happy with himself, if he has a big ego, he is not. He is miserable. The statement is not conjecture, but a law of human nature. It is psychological math. So insidious is this law that a person may feelings. Now, maybe if you've been in leadership or coaching for any period of time, you've heard about those things, those self-destructive behaviors, that they go on in the non-conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious mind. They happen when you're not thinking about them intentionally. They're thoughts that you are not thinking out loud. They're thoughts that you're not considering out loud, that you would never cause you to behave in a certain way. Remember, we talked in the last session about microaggressions and microexpressions. How someone says something that they didn't intend to trigger you, but deep down inside, and the reaction on your face, the muscles in your face cause an expression that happens before you cognitively think about it. Because if you were thinking about it, you'd think, well, I don't want to make a face. I mean, I'm not trying to tell them anything. I don't want them to think that I'm. But that stone cold poker face is sometimes betrayed by the inner thoughts, the mood, and how you feel about what you think and what you think about how you feel. It's more contagious than the common cold, and sometimes it shows up on your face, for better or worse. The statement is not conjecture, but law of human nature. It is psychological math. So insidious is this law that a person may actually think he likes himself, but his behavior betrays his feelings. How you feel about yourself and how you treat yourself are two totally different things. Do you take good care of yourself? Do you do the things that are right because they're right, regardless of how you feel about them? See, that's a sign of high self-esteem, high emotional stability, and low ego. But sometimes it's the puffed up ego that causes us to say, I'm good, I'm all good, I'm fine with me. I regret nothing. I've done nothing wrong. I've never made a mistake. I've never sinned. I've never breached anyone's confidence. I've always been perfect. That ego and self-esteem are often out of balance, and sometimes it's about compensation. And the self-esteem is low, then mood and attitude drive our conscious mind. Behavior that betrays about ourselves, the world to perceive us, and yet our behavior is that. How you do anything is how you do everything. Is my life, am I really that in this point, right? One more little collection of words here to share with you. By the way, if you don't have this book, go get this book. If you're a leader or a communicator, you need to know what's in here. This is page 146 in a section called The Self-Esteem Detector, Determining a Person's Level of Self-Esteem. A person can't doing it because he likes he seek feels good about who he is. Insecurity. We see it and mathematical equation. How you treat others. That could be manipulation. I'm doing this I'm serving to get the new promotion, to get the new opportunity. A relationship I already have in favor. Maybe my whole I give because there's a really isn't about getting others to do. That's about me and what if outward impression. It's like that ostentatious behavior. Putting it might be completely as it gets it. Music videos you see, Speedos, girls in thongs, whatever you want to say. That ostentatious behavior kind of falls in the category of, made you look, right? It's really just about getting attention to me. And sometimes the low self-esteem, high ego leader who's serving others for the purpose of that ostentatious attention, their intentionality is still pointing back to them. It's about them getting attention. It's about them getting the notice. It's about them getting the promotion. It's about them getting the followers. It's about them because they have low self-esteem and high ego, because they're emotionally immature and unstable. You're beginning to see the relationship between all these things. Sometimes the most giving are the low self-esteem, high ego, therefore potentially not leader worthiness type of person. How can you tell if someone has high self-esteem? We see it as a reflection of how he treats himself and others. A person who lacks self-esteem may indulge in things to satisfy his own desires and will not treat others particularly well. Or he may cater to others because he craves approval and respect, but he won't take care of his own needs. Well, now that's a vicious offset, isn't it? As someone who's always doing for others, but like the mechanic who's always working on the neighbor's car for free, but his own is broken down. The cobbler whose children have no shoes. The lawyer who's in more legal trouble than the clients that he helps. Only someone who truly has self-esteem will treat both himself and others well. When we say well, we don't mean engaging in short-term gratification. Rather, he invests his long-term well-being as well as being kind and good to others. We might erroneously conclude that a person delaying gratification is in self-control and assume that reflective of self-esteem. But unless we look at the other side of the coin, we are left with only half the story. What if a person doesn't eat tasty, fattening foods, delayed gratification, so she can lose weight to attract a married man? We must see the full equation if motivations balance out and produce self-esteem or not. This woman, for instance, would be demonstrating cracks in her self-esteem because, as a matter of human design, she will treat others poorly. Look, there's a whole lot to be said about leadership and communication. There's a whole lot to be said about confidence, about a positive attitude, about this charismatic, attention and keep attention, and all eyes are on them, and therefore the world will follow them and go where they go. They'll say and do exactly the right things. And the real question is, are they leading out of ego? Are they leading out of a solid, well-established concern for themselves and others? Self-esteem. The valuation of me that says I am important to me, my lifestyle, my behavior, my choices, my actions, how I interact with others, they're all on the up and up. I'm not trying to manipulate anybody. I'm not trying to win anybody's approval. I'm doing what's right because I'm emotionally mature. I'm stable. I get it. And there's the idea as a result of self-esteem. It's that quiet confidence that says, I don't have to tell you what I did. I'm just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. There's even a quotient in there where he talks about there's a balance where when your confidence is high because your self things that you will do to 10 off the charts difficult. you will do the right thing. Someone with a low self-esteem and a high ego will see that same task as beneath them. In fact, that are 1/10 as difficult, not for themselves, not for others. A high self-esteem person might say, I've been on the road for 3 weeks, I've been out traveling, I've been doing the work, I've been sweating and grueling and task-oriented for 30 days. And I come home to find the garbage piled up, and I'm just over it. No. The high self-esteem says, in spite of the fact that I've been out there doing all this, when I come home and find the garbage needs to be taken out, I'm the first person without asking to grab the garbage and take it out because that's the right thing to do. The low self-esteem person might come in the door and go, but I've been on the road for all this time. And their ego will allow them to say, can't you see what I've done for you already? Why is the garbage stacked up? Why didn't you take care of the garbage? I am not taking care of the garbage. I've already done my part. You do your part. That's high ego, low self-esteem. That self-esteem that's balanced, that's emotionally mature, that says, I see your needs at least equal to my needs. And the right thing to do, as difficult as it may be, is just get it done. It doesn't need a discussion. It just has to get done. It's the right thing to do. High self-esteem, low ego, confidence just gets the right thing done. Not for reward, not for accolades, not for the ostentatious attention, but because it's the right thing to do. If you're a leader like that, carry on. Self-awareness is the highest of the Maslow's hierarchy. The lowest is dealing with our own mood and our own needs, our own immediate toothache. Get over yourself. Move up the ladder. Be higher to the top of that pyramid. Be self-aware and constantly growing, and you'll be a better leader. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.